Okay, I apologize, this is kind of an unconventional way to present this, but this is my Changemakers number 3 project. And so I wanted to do a presentation on sustainable energy and kind of the little things we've been talking about in class recently. So for this first one, I wanted to talk about conventional energy. So here I have a couple of things that say what are the pros and cons. So there are a lot of pros and cons to conventional energy right now, like coal, as you can see here in this graphic. Petroleum is a really big one. There's natural gas, and then coal and nuclear electric power. So those ones are kind of our conventional energy that we're using right now. And some pros is that they're a lot easier, they're a lot more accessible right now. We already have our infrastructure set up for it, so that's one of the pros of conventional energy, right? The conventional energy is what we're using right now. Some of the cons are that it has a pretty poor impact on the environment. For example, a lot of emissions come off of coal and natural gases and the petroleum, right, the oil. And I wish I had a graphic, but when we look at it, obviously the emissions from these conventional energy sources are going to be a lot more than these ones over here, which are the renewable resources, which we're going to talk about in a second. Some of the other cons are methane. That's a gas. It can be toxic. It's like CO2, just a little bit different. And it has been known, because of fracking and the drilling of oil, it has been known to get into some of the water streams, and sometimes it's kind of funny, you can light your water on fire if you're close to one of those firms. There's a video on it. So nuclear energy is one that's kind of up and coming. It's considered to be a lot cleaner, although it's not necessarily renewable. It's just cleaner because of the emissions aren't as dirty, aren't as high compared to coal and petroleum or oil. With sustainable energy, the renewable energy sources, there's a couple of different options. These are kind of ones that are being used right now. So there's geothermal energy, there's solar, hydroelectric, wind, and then biomass, biofuels, and wood. So kind of some cons of the biomass is that it's still CO2 emissions. Some of the pros of these ones up here, like geothermal, hydroelectric, and wind power, is that they are renewable, right? The wind's not going anywhere. Water is not really going anywhere, but it is possible that we could use it up at the rate that we're using it. And so kind of what I wanted to explain is that there's a lot of options that we can use with these new energy sources, and it's pretty cool what we can do. And there are a lot of different pros and cons to both sides. The pros being that sustainable energy obviously is a lot better for the environment, and it is easier for us to use in the long run because it's not going to run out, at least not as quickly as coal or other sources would. And then finally, there's a couple of things that we can do. So there are some things that are being done, and there's some things that we can do. So right now, there are a lot of studies being done to figure out how to harness more of the wind power. There are other things like there are studies being done to be able to work with wave energy. So that one's a pretty cool sustainable energy, renewable energy source, basically harnessing the energy that we get from the waves coming inland. And there's a ton of other ones. Hydroelectricity, that works through when you dam up a river and then you release the water as it flows, and it hits a turbine that spins and creates electricity for us. So obviously all of these challenges and all the consequences of conventional and sustainable energy challenge scientists to produce more effective ways to have our energy. And some things that we can do, there are a lot of little things that we can do, like, using, turning off lights when we don't need them, or, using less our appliances to kind of, or get cleaner appliances, better said, to be able to, that are more energy efficient. We can also look into things like composting, and those things will allow for less CO2 emissions and less of an impact on the environment. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to help with the sustainable energy problem. And yeah, so there's a lot of things we can do, and it's a really cool up and coming scientific field of research, and I'm excited to see what's next.